If you're here to see another plain Jane cutting board video, you may be in the wrong place. What you see here is what started as an ingrain hickory cutting board. Nearly finished and in a flattening pass on my CNC, I began to think of ways I could make this ingrain cutting board into something unique, something that wasn't just a cutting board. You see, the size of cutting boards sometimes make it hard to store in a traditional kitchen. If I could make something that someone would like to have as a display piece and keep on their counter, maybe that would be better. The pattern of the ingrain on the hickory reminded me of a particular fruit, and I needed a way to cover up these wormholes and make them blend into the design. You saw me draw the pineapple on the ingrain, but what you see me cut out is a SVG file that I bought off of Etsy for about $1. If you haven't already and you decide to get a CNC, a laser engraver, or a 3D printer, you can find the files that you'll need for your machine in many locations, but I like to use Etsy. It's convenient and a lot of times it's cheap. With the total thickness of the board being roughly 1.25 inches, I wanted to inlay some epoxy into the design, so I carved partially into the thickness. The outside of the carve was about 1/2 inch deep, and the little diamond shapes and the pineapple spikes I carved about 1/4 inch. People have a lot of different theories and opinions about using epoxy in a product that is going to come in contact with food. If I were to be asked for my opinion on the matter, I would advise against hot food being placed on a cutting board or charcuterie board or whatever type of epoxy board that you're using to serve or cut. Everyone is entitled to their own epoxy opinion, whether that be theory-based or fact-based. I will say if someone is dead set against using epoxy products that will touch food, don't buy or use these products and you won't have to worry about it. I use my CNC for several things, but for flattening, it's probably the most useful for me. This particular machine is a Shapeoko 4 extra extra large. It's got a 32 by 32 inch bed, and it'll run you about $2,000 if you ever want one. You'll see I show most of my cleanup, especially my vacuuming, in my videos. I continue to do this for one reason, and that's the feedback I received from my daughter. She told me a while back that the cleanup is her favorite part of my videos, so I try to make sure I capture some of that cleanup so I can keep her and others tuned in. If you look at the finger that's pointing down at the board, you'll see some residue. That residue was brought up from the double-sided tape I used to hold down this material. When the bit sunk down into the spool board, it pulled that residue up on the side of the pineapple, and boy, was it hard to get off. When the epoxy cured, it's set up on the spool board, and when I lifted the board up, I have this piece of MDF that stuck to it, so I'm gonna need to chisel this off. The footage of this edge router I took using a vertical format because I made this into a short, and this footage isn't as clear as the rest of the video. But this is the edge routing that I did. I put a 1/8 of an inch round over on the top and a 45-degree bevel on the bottom. In the short form video, I don't think anybody noticed my favorite coffee cup, so maybe you'll notice it here. Sometimes it seems like sanders just have a mind of their own. While you watch my sanding process using this state-of-the-art equipment, please let me know in the comments what you like to see in the videos you've watched on this channel. I would love to get your feedback on things that you liked and you didn't like. And don't forget to like and subscribe. This is the fuel I need to keep making these videos for fun. My next build is going to be a dining room table I'm making to replace an old table that we've been using for a while. It's going to be made from the same hickory wood that I'm using here in this video. And don't forget to set your notifications so they'll remind you when the table video goes live in the coming weeks. Thanks for watching. You can hear my CNC running in the background. That's one good thing about the CNC I like also is you can set it and forget it and be doing something else while your CNC is running. Now here I'm adding some CA glue to some of the wormholes just to cover those guys up. Epoxy was poured into a number of them, but the others I have to fill up. Now you seen me go into a water pop earlier and now I'm giving it a final sand. I sanded up to 320 and I'm using a chisel and some homemade sanding tools to get in all the hard to reach areas. I'm rubbing on some food grade mineral oil here. I'm gonna let this sit and soak in for several hours. This mineral oil, no different than any other finish, really brings out the quality and the detail of the wood. Hickory is a very dense and hard wood. It reminds me the most of oak. It is perfect to make cutting boards out of. And right here, I was thinking about all those so-called cutting board experts that say always use a hand screwdriver to screw your cutting board feet in. And I was thinking, I can use a power drill if I want to. All I gotta do is be careful. So that's when I messed up. As careful as I thought I was being, I actually stripped the head of the screw out. And I spent a little time trying to rework this thing, and I eventually just used a hand screwdriver like I should have in the first place. Now, I've been asked before why I used a buffer to put on my cutting board butter. Well, I have a question for you, sir. Why not? Do you see how cool this looks? I mean, it might not do any good, but it looks cool as hell. So keep on using your boring hands to put your cutting board butter on, and I'm gonna keep using my wind buffer.